Final Fantasy VI, or 3, no, 6, is a landmark game in the role-playing genre. It's consistently ranked among the best RPGs ever made, and for good reason. The story was one of the grandest ever told through the medium of games at the time of its release. It has an unforgettable cast of characters, and, best of all, it has an incredible soundtrack by series composer and total Aries, Nobuo Uematsu. The soundtrack is lengthy and filled to the brim with great tunes, but let's focus on a specific slice of this OST, the character themes. Each of the 14 playable characters has one, as do a couple of NPCs, and their themes do an excellent job of telling us about who they are. As this is a big topic, I'll be discussing it over the course of 2 videos. That's right, this is just part 1. I'm ProkoCat, welcome to VGMazing, my series on video game music appreciation. The story team for Final Fantasy VI designed the game's complex tale with this idea in mind, that every character is the protagonist. Consequently, most characters feature prominently in the plot and have character arcs. If there was a true main character in Final Fantasy VI, though, Terra would definitely be in the running. She's the first character we meet, and much of the plot revolves around her and her exceptional abilities. What's more, her character theme is heard in the soundtrack more than any other. The first incarnation of her character theme is heard as part of the game's opening credits. We hear a motoric line in the harp and a steady, militaristic figure in the snare drum. This perfectly accompanies the scene before us as Terra, currently under mind control, trudges through the snow toward the town of Narshe in a big mech armor suit because Japan. Terra spends much of the story of Final Fantasy VI feeling confused and reluctant, many times questioning her involvement in the game's conflict. This is mirrored in the repeated rising and falling shape of her melody, creating an aimless feeling that is affectually dissonant with the forward push of the drums. Uematsu takes inspiration for his music from many places, with such disparate influences as prog rock, Renaissance music, and the music of Igor Stravinsky. In this track and others, we can hear the influence of Western genre film and television scoring. There's a remarkable similarity between this iteration of Terra's theme and Ennio Morricone's main theme for the film A Fistful of Dollars. Those chugging strings propel us forward at a moderate tempo similar to Terra's theme, and whereas Uematsu chose the oboe to play his melody, we hear in this example the oboe's big sister, the English horn. Later in this piece, we even hear a stoic snare drum part, creating yet another connection. That Uematsu might make reference to the music of westerns for these opening credits makes sense. The iconic image of the western is the lonely and mysterious hero traversing a harsh landscape with his trusty steed. Trade sand for snow and horse for mech, and the analogy is clear. Unlike a Western hero, Terra isn't physically alone, but she is in other ways isolated. Her actions at this time are not her own, and she has no allies, no family. Oh, just hold on a little longer, Terra. You'll make lots of friends soon, like this Yeti, a Pokemon, and this pile of laundry. Oh, excuse me, is that non-binary fashion icon Gogo? I'm starstruck. Many of Final Fantasy VI's character themes appear in more than one unique track, and Terra's is no exception. The track Awakening is heard during cutscenes featuring her, and it includes her theme, albeit truncated, with a different instrumentation. Most notably, the snare drum that once gave momentum to the music is absent. Without a motoric voice, this music is now more halting, coming to rest at several points. This suggests Terra's hesitance as she struggles with her own powers, her past, and her place in the emerging story. Setzer is a thrill-seeking gambler with a love of fashion and a penchant for the theatrical. He's notable in the world of Final Fantasy VI as the owner of the Blackjack, one of the few extant airships. His theme is full of panache, with an orchestra of brass, strings, and percussion charging ahead at a high tempo. The most striking feature of Setzer's theme is the bass line, which is rapid and provides this track with much of its forward motion. Interestingly, the melody is somewhat restrained relative to the bass line, creating the effect of 2 timescales. The lower voice, speeding by as the melody sings along moderately, is not unlike the relationship between the ground and an airship. Listening to this music, I can't help but imagine Setzer looking over the side of the Blackjack, watching terrain zooming by below him. Setzer's theme is another one we hear relatively often in the soundtrack to Final Fantasy VI. This is because, like Terra's theme, it has a utilitarian purpose and appears outside of cutscenes involving the character. Setzer's theme is associated with air travel in general, as it plays when in the cabin of both airships our party uses during the adventure. It also features prominently in the final credits sequence, as our party takes a celebratory joyride through the skies after defeating Kefka. When Setzer is reminiscing about his lost love, fellow airship pilot Daryl, we're treated to this touching variation of his theme. The tumbling bass line is gone in favor of simple arpeggiated chords played on guitar, and the melody sounds to be on cymbalom of all things. This intimate and simple reimagining of Setzer's theme gives us a glimpse of his former tenderness, which, thankfully, seems to be reawakening in this cutscene. Shadow has one of my personal favorite character themes in Final Fantasy VI. It just has so much flavor. I might also be partial to Shadow because he has a pupper named Interceptor. When our party enters a pub Shadow happens to be ruminating in, we are struck by the rather unexpected sound of a Jew's harp. Shadow's theme features a whistled tune accompanied by guitar, bass, and a small kit of percussion, all introduced by those characteristic twangs. Appropriately for Shadow's archetype of the outlaw protagonist, this is another piece from this soundtrack that seems to demonstrate the influence of Western film and television scoring. Two examples come to mind. Firstly, the instrumentation bears a strong resemblance to that of Morricone's title music for A Fistful of Dollars. Just as in Shadow's theme, we hear whistling accompanied by guitar. This instrumentation choice is perfect for Shadow. He's a character that prefers to work solo, and whistling has a distinctive solitary quality. It's the sound we make when we wander, when we're idle, or when no one else is around. Secondly, Shadow's theme is suspiciously similar to the title music of the old Western TV show The Virginian. The melodies are nearly identical. Not only are they also in the same meter, they're even in the same key. I don't know if Uematsu was making deliberate reference to these old westerns, or to what extent he may have used them as models, but it's clear to me that the vernacular of Western film and television scoring was in his ears at the time of Final Fantasy VI's composition. If you ask me, Uematsu fancies himself a cowboy. Edgar and Sabin's theme is perhaps the grandest in the soundtrack. These two brothers are royals. Edgar, more specifically, is the the king of Figaro. Hence, we have a regal track for full orchestra, complete with woodwinds, brass, strings, pounding timpani, crashing cymbals, all the pomp and grandeur one might expect. It's not all fanfare and aggrandizement, though. The contrasting secondary themes suggest something a little more complex below the stately surface. Just like with Terra and Setzer's music, there is a variation of Edgar and Sabin's theme that appears in select cutscenes. The difference between this first incarnation and the variation is especially remarkable though, as there's an enormous contrast between the two. The truth about Edgar and Sabin is that neither of them feel a particular drive to rule, preferring to explore engineering and martial arts respectively. When their father dies unexpectedly, they flip a coin to decide who must take up the throne in his place. We learn all about this in a touching cutscene accompanied by this more vulnerable version of their theme. This variation, a track named The Coin of Fate, sees the full orchestra replaced by a lone guitar. Strings and woodwinds join in sometime later without disrupting the sentimental affect. Additionally, that grand first section in the previous iteration is abbreviated in favor of greater emphasis on the more complex secondary theme. This track tells us that, like a coin, Edgar and Sabin's story has two sides. One side is an outward-facing one, association with a royal family and responsibility to their father's kingdom. The other side, full of doubts and yearning, is one they only share with each other. See? Royals are just like us. Thanks, Square. Monarchy is fine, actually. I hope you enjoyed this discussion of 4 of the character themes from the awesome soundtrack to Final Fantasy VI. As I said in the introduction, this is just part 1. Please do subscribe so that you can be in the know when I release part 2, and you won't want to miss it. I'll be talking about the famous opera scene, as well as this game's incredible final boss music, Dancing Mad. Follow me on Twitter at ProkoCat for updates on the next video and to hear some of the musical shenanigans I get up to. Thanks for watching!